Welcome to Grow Good, a podcast of conversion stories, to share encounters with the living God, to bear good fruit, a place where others can meet or be inspired to meet God. So get cozy, lean in, and listen close. Miracles are at work, and He wants to meet you too. My name is Rachel Smith, and I'm your host. Now let's start growing some good. Hi guys, and happy Tuesday. I hope your week is off to a great start and you're just enjoying the warm weather and really soaking in all the graces that the Lord has in store for you. Before we dive into this week's conversion story, I wanted to update you on some exciting new developments for Branches of the Vine. You can now sign up to support the show at different levels of giving on Patreon. At each level of support, whether it's $5 a month, $10 a month, or $20 a month, you will gain access to different gifts in return for your support. Some levels include the To Grow Good embroidered baseball cap or the hand-painted Catholic journaling Bible. At all levels of giving, you will gain immediate access to the collection of all past and future monthly bonus episodes released each month on a different topic that stirs my heart. Past episode topics include my personal journey and experiences with Eucharistic adoration, discovering daily prayer, and coming to know the power of Our Lady. This month's bonus episode topic is letting Him lead. How to listen to and follow nudges from the Holy Spirit in your everyday. You will also gain access to a member-only community where we can meet one another, submit questions, connect, and chat. There's already a post waiting in there to get the conversation going. I cannot wait to connect with you all in this more intimate way. If you've been waiting for the right time to join our little Branches of the Vine community, this is it, especially if you've been eyeing some of those items in the shop and you've been wanting to gain access to those bonus episodes. Thank you in advance for your support. You can visit togrowgood.com/support to join us or patreon.com/togrowgood. Both links will get you to the same place, and both are live links in today's episode description. So if you just scroll down, you'll see where to join. I also wanted to give a quick listener leave shout out to Branches of the Vine supporter and past guest, Deacon Ryan. With Deacon Ryan's donation, he left a note saying, "Thank you for your fiat. Much love from Deacon Ryan, Anna, and Aspen. Set the world on fire with love for our Lord. Dream and plant those seeds." Thank you so much, Deacon Ryan, for supporting the show and making everything you're listening to right now happen, making the shop happen, making these interviews happen, making the video content that is coming very, very soon happen. I'm so grateful for all of you that have already become supporters of the show, and I really can't wait for this next development to be able to connect with you all and offer a way to, come together in a more intimate way. So as I said, you can go to growgood.com/support or patreon.com/togrowgood and join today. Cannot wait to connect with you over there. This week, I'm so excited to be joined by Jen Olson from Jen Olson Illustrations. If you have not yet heard about Jen Olson and her beautiful artwork that she is creating, you need to go check it out. She has an Etsy shop and she's on Instagram, and she's just creating beautiful portraits of the saints and scenes from the life of Christ that are just amazing. So please go check her out. And as soon as I saw her artwork, I was thinking, I want to know what her inspiration for creating this shop was. I just knew that the Lord was so clearly behind the work that she was producing. So it was just a gift to get to hear what it was that called her into this work and the journey that led her there. And I think one of the biggest things that stuck out to me about Jen's story is the subtlety of the Lord, just how He's present in our lives, even when we maybe don't realize it, and how He's putting things into place specifically for us. and how when we feel lost, how he responds by giving us the next step forward, not the whole picture, but just the next step. And that's exactly what happens with Jen. And I just can't wait for you to be moved like I was by her journey and her story. So without any other delay, here is the story of Jen Olson. Jen, hello. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I am so excited you are here and to hear your story. But first, can you begin by just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about you and what you do right now?
Sure. Well, I am Jen Olson, and I am the owner of Jen Olson Illustration. I am the oldest of three, and my dad was Catholic, and my mom was not. She converted later. And she is a strong and incredible woman, but I would call her probably like the pick and choose Catholic. And so she went through all the programs you need to convert. But so I feel like my upbringing was kind of like mostly Catholic because we did go to Mass, and I went through religious education. I went to a Catholic high school. I later went to a Catholic university, but also I had the influence of my mom, who was always questioning things and always wondering, why would this be this way when it could be a different way, which I think is important. It really helped me solidify a lot of the ideas that I was being taught in religious education and helped me work through a lot of those because she was always asking questions. So I appreciate both sides that I got. I married my husband, Tim. We have 5 children, 4 on earth, 1 in heaven. Hopefully he's praying for his mama because I need it a lot with 4 siblings. And yeah, this is the 4th year of Jen Olson Illustration. And it started as I painted an acrylic painting of a girl holding flowers. People wanted to purchase it. And then it moved on from there to family portraits. And then it evolved to saint portraits. And now I'm illustrating my 5th book, I think, this year right now, which is a huge project. And I'm so grateful for everything that my little illustration business has given to me, because that's like a dream come true. 1 book is a dream, and now I'm on number 5. So it's just awesome.
Wow. Amazing. That is incredible. I cannot wait to get into that and how that page started and what your process or inspiration was going into that. But yeah, let's get into your journey in the faith, if you don't mind. Maybe you gave a little bit of intro there, but if you could just touch on how you grew up and what your relationship to God was, and if there was a moment where you can really remember coming to realize that he was real and that he was really there.
Yeah, well, something that has obviously impacted me a lot was my father passed away when I was 15 years old. And so for his job, we had traveled to Hong Kong and we were living there. And my dad went in for a doctor's appointment. And he had been noticing a mole that was growing on his back. And he had gone in a couple of times, and the doctors had said, you're fine, you're fine. And so when we went back for vacation one year, he went to a doctor in the United States, and the doctor said, yes, like this is a problem. And so it ended up he had melanoma. And so we had to come back to the United States, and he went through treatment for a year. He went into remission, which was so exciting. And then a year later, he had another bout of it. And melanoma now is a very different beast than what it was then. There's just many more treatments for it. At that time, a lot of the treatments were just trial treatments. And so my dad, said a prayer. He's like, Lord, like, if this is the moment, like, let me live 5 more years, like 5 more years, let me get my stuff together, and then you can take me. And I didn't know this until I was an adult, but he lived for 5 more years and he passed away.
Wow.
So, and one of the things that really touched me, and as, a teenager, I didn't really know how much it impacted me, was as I'm going to cry. So just be aware. is as he got sicker, he became more and more devout. And it like he would go to church even when he couldn't stand, or even when like he had to show up in socks. Like he would go because he knew he needed to be there. And so as a kid, I was losing a lot of faith in God because that's really hard. And I didn't understand, like, why are you even going to church? Like, you're getting sick no matter how much you pray. But he continued to go. One time he tried to bring just me. And I was like, this is so dumb. Like, I don't need to go to church. God doesn't hear you anyway. And he kicked me out of the car. And he's like, walk back home and don't come with me. And I just remember, like, I was like 2 blocks away from my house. So it's not like he ditched me on the side of the highway. But I remember like sitting there in my room and I wasn't at church and I felt awful. And I prayed for like the whole hour. And then he came back and of course I apologized, but I was like, I was supposed to be there, you know, like that was a moment where I felt like I was supposed to be there and I had just thrown a fit and I really missed out on that opportunity. So he passed away. She passed away on Halloween, a month after the World Trade Towers were hit. So he passed away in October of 2001. And it was just interesting because the world was suffering because of the trade towers. And my birthday is September 12th. So it was the day after. And I was suffering because I spent my birthday in the hospital, you know. So that was a huge, huge impact, obviously, on me. And so from there, I feel like along with all of the challenges of being a teenager, right? Like you're growing into yourself, you're still a kid, but you're becoming an adult. Like all of a sudden I had this huge hole in my life that I never realized was going to be there. And he had cancer. So we knew at some point that it was time, like his time was ending, but still the idea of having a parent missing is such an abstract concept until it happens. So all of that just kind of compounded on itself. And I did what, you know, I've heard a lot of people do where they look to fill the hole with other things. And for me, I think the majority of that was boys. Like I decided, like even before my father passed, I'd kind of been sort of getting into a relationship with this boy. And then when my father passed away, I felt so empty. And my natural reaction was, of course, not to go to God and be like, you are my father always, like, come now because I need you. It was like, okay, now is the perfect opportunity to have a boyfriend who's going to make it all better. Which, of course, it didn't make it all better. But I dated him for, off and on, I think for 5 years. I went to my freshman year at college and we were still dating. And it was off and on. And it was not good, both for him and for me. I wanted him to be, you know, a Band-Aid for all the hurt I was feeling, you know, and he was dating a girl who just didn't have herself to give anything, you know, like it was trying to pull from an empty bucket, you know, like there was just nothing. So I would say that my high school life in general was just probably one of my darkest periods. I went to a therapist, you know, a couple of weeks after my dad passed because, you know, I needed to be able to talk about it. And he was terrible. But one of the things he told me was start a journal and write letters to your dad. Like tell him everything, write a journal. And so I did. And I still have them. I'm on like the 13th or 14th journal now that I've been writing. And to like turn back and read those, there's just a lot of feelings in those journals. But it was great to have those and to have that outlet because the rest of it was really dark. I was going to a Catholic private school at the time. And I had like a really good group of friends, but with everything else going on, in the middle of the year after my dad passed, they told me that, you know, my life was too stressful. They couldn't be my friend anymore, which might have been true because I was going through a lot and just had nothing to offer. But I mean, it's still devastating, you know, to have your core friend group say, sorry, like we just can't anymore. And it was a really small high school. It was, I think my graduating class was 23. So when you have 5 of those people tell you they just can't be your friend, I mean, all of a sudden you're like, your core group just got a lot smaller. So that was really challenging. And I just felt like surrounded by this idea of like purity culture and really conservative Catholic values. Any slip up I made, which I made a lot of them, I had no one to talk to. You know, I couldn't tell my mom because she was suffering. I couldn't tell my friends because they weren't around. So, I mean, really, it was just this moment of intense loneliness, which, I mean, my grades suffered. I pulled out, I had danced. I had been a dancer up until that time. And when I was 16, I decided I wasn't going to dance anymore. I stopped participating in activities. I stopped participating in school. It was just a hard moment. And as the oldest, I feel like I had to create like this persona of being fine because I had 2 younger siblings who were also struggling in different ways, but still struggling. My mom, you know, like she had 3 children and her husband was gone. And so I just felt like if anyone's going to be strong, it's going to be me. But inside it was like, I was just alone. So it was hard. But when you get to the darkest moments, right, like the sun comes out so much brighter. And so I went to the University of St. Thomas for college, which when I got the acceptance letter, I was thrilled because of my grades and because of everything else. I was like, no one's going to accept me. Like, I've made too many mistakes at this point, like nothing. And when I got the acceptance letter, I was like, okay, like it's time to start anew. So, but I mean, and that doesn't happen overnight, but it felt like, you know, college, you're turning a page. And so I felt too like I was turning a page and just being away from everything and starting something new, I feel offered that moment of like, who am I actually now that I'm away from all these other influences? And that was great. And then really the big turning point is I decided to do a study abroad program in Rome. And I would like to say that I did it because it was a Catholic studies program in Rome. And I would love to be able to say I did it because I wanted to learn more about the Catholic faith. But what I was really excited about was going to Italy. And it like felt like it was going to be an easy A because I'd already like gone through Catholic high school. I was like, I don't even care. I'm just going to go to Italy because duh, you go to Italy.
True. It's still true, but it's amazing how he can use whatever we'll give him. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I decided to do that. So I did that my junior year of college. And it was just life-changing for me. First of all, I was surrounded by people who also wanted to be in Rome, but most of them, a good portion of them were seminarians. So they were men who were contemplating devoting their entire lives to the priesthood. And all that comes with. And then there were many, many really wonderful women that came with me to Rome who were in just a much better place than I was at the moment, which is exactly what I needed. I needed to feel like there were normal people out there within my reach who could show me that this life was possible, that a devout life was possible. And maybe not like even 100% pious, but that like trying to obtain it was possible, you know? And so we went to Rome. We got to study at an amazing school. And one day, so one of the things that I didn't love initially was every Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday, we did like mass. And then we did like a family dinner where everyone got together, we did mass, and then we went down to dinner. And then we also did Mass on Sundays. So this was like my first introduction to daily Mass. And I was so like upset, not even upset, but just like, I don't even know how to, like, I grudged it. Is that a phrase that we can use? Like,
grudge,
I begrudgingly went every Wednesday because that's what we had to do. And one time instead of going to Mass, in the little chapel that was in the home we were staying at, I don't know where we went, but we went to this little tiny chapel. It was dark in there. It was almost like a cave. We brought one of the priests with us and we did Mass there in this quiet little place. And it was the first time that I felt like a clear call of God saying, like, I am still here. Like, you have gone all over the place and I have been watching you and I am still standing here. And it was even when I went up to receive the Eucharist, it's like I could feel it, like in my throat and like digesting. It was the weirdest thing. And I didn't talk about it to anyone because I was like, I don't know, it's probably just indigestion or something. Yeah. I probably just swallowed it wrong. But looking back on it in that moment of finally feeling like I'm on the right path, like indigestion or not, like that feeling of swallowing the Eucharist and having it fill me was a moment where I just turned a page, and it's like I've never been able to go back. And I don't even know where we were. I don't know, like I can never go back because I don't know. But it was beautiful and it was serene and it was exactly what I needed. And I just left there feeling at peace. I decided that I was going to go to confession for the first time in a long time, because I knew in my heart of hearts, like I technically shouldn't have been receiving the Eucharist with the fact that I hadn't been to confession in so long. And so the next day, a friend of mine and I went to St. Peter's. And I had confession at St. Peter's while she stood guard so that like all the tourists wouldn't take pictures of me, having a confession. And afterwards I went and I knelt in the pew to pray, and I just like sobbed the tears that needed to come out for years. Wow. And it was perfect and it was humiliating and it was so humbling, and I felt home, So that was kind of, if I hadn't gone to Rome, like I probably would have been called at some point anyway, because he never abandons us no matter where we are. But the fact that I experienced it in Rome in these beautiful historic places is such a beautiful memory for me.
Wow. That's so beautiful.
And you can actually see when I look at the pictures in Rome, it's odd because it's the first time in pictures too that you see me smiling and it looks real. There's this picture that I have of, we went to the Pantheon for Pentecost because they dump millions of rose petals from the ceiling when it's over. And so we went there for Mass, and there's this picture of me and I'm holding on to a friend of mine and there's roses dumping everywhere and I'm just laughing. And I love this picture because you can feel the joy coming out. And I don't know, like I was incapable of that kind of exuberant joy up until that point in Rome. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's just lovely to have like even a physical evidence in a photo of like, look at how this changed me.
Yeah, that is so beautiful, Jen. Oh my gosh. I love so many things that you shared, but I love how, he really will just use whatever little smidge that we're willing to give. Because even though you weren't going for that intention, that was still, a yes, even at a really small and distant level. You were saying yes to this adventure with these people that were basically bringing you closer to Christ. It's just so beautiful to see how like through the community he was also working, like, and through that you were meeting, he was working, and through these priests, like these people that were studying for the priesthood or discerning the priesthood, like how you got basically to witness all these aspects of him, I feel like in such a different and new light. And what a more perfect place to go than to Rome. I mean, it's just beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so then, what happened next when you got home? Were you kind of like on fire for the Catholic faith, or were there things you had to kind of look into in terms of like, I don't even know, like what we believe as Catholics, or what was kind of your, at that point in life, were you, because you mentioned before we hopped on that you had some experiences with other denominations as well of Protestant.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious to hear kind of like what your story was like from there.
Yeah, I feel like the pendulum swings both ways, right? You go from not believing anything or really struggling, and then you swing all the way to this other side of just, I would say like overindulgence in the faith of like everything is so wonderful. I'm so on fire. Like I'll never come down from this high. Right. Because of course that's what happened when I came home. It was just like, I've been in Rome. I went to St. Peter's for Easter, the Pantheon. I was showered with roses. Right. Like it was just, I will never come down again, which of course you come back to normal life and you realize like there are still wounds that need to be healed. And so I feel like I did this complete swing from one end to the other where I almost became like proud in my faith. Like I judged other people for their level of faith, which was completely unfair because of where I had been. But that's just where I was in that journey. And so it took me a while to kind of come back and get my equilibrium back of this faith is everything I need it to be, but also like I need to be humble in my faith and understand I will continue to make mistakes and I will continue to need to reach out and be like, yeah, hi, me again. I made the same mistake. Yeah, I did that. So it was wonderful to come home and just feel refreshed, but it was also a really good reminder of the fact that our faith journeys are a continuous journey and they don't just end because you're on fire in this moment. And it was interesting because I worked for a mission company and they were non-denominational. And I went before I went to Rome and I went after I went to Rome. So the time I went before, I had an incredible experience. I had a wonderful director over me. I was in charge of work projects. So I was in charge of putting together all the different projects that participants would come and do. So like paint homes, fix things, that was my job. And I had a wonderful woman that was my director and she was fantastic. And so I came back from that feeling like that spark of, I know what peace is. Like I've been at peace. And then I went again after Rome and I was the director. And one of the people who worked for me came to me one time and she was like, I feel so dry in my faith. Like I know that I'm here. I know that God called me here. I know I'm supposed to be here, but I miss my home. I miss my friends. I feel like I can't even hear him. And I was like, I feel the same way. I read her one of my journal entries, which was, really hard for me to do, but it essentially said the same thing. Like, I feel like I'm meant to be here. I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be. And I feel so empty. I just feel dry, which is insane to me because I was just in Rome and I'm supposed to be on fire and I'm supposed to throw myself into this. And this is supposed to be beautiful. And it was one of the most challenging summers I've ever had. And I felt like now, of course, looking back on it, I feel like it was such a good reminder of like, this is not going to be balls of flame and energy all the time. Like, you are going to have to work sometimes, and you're going to have to lean on me. You can't just carry this on your own. So it's just really interesting that I had such completely different experiences. And one at the end that I thought was going to be so different. And it ended up being such a good illustration for me of like, we're not done yet.
Yeah. So then what happened, and how did this eventually, I guess, maybe eventually lead to your Instagram account and your illustrations and everything? Like, how does that even come into play too?
Yeah. So after that, I actually got married. And my husband is, where I am stubborn and have a hard time sharing my feelings and tend to get riled up really fast and then hold a grudge. My husband is kind, and he, gets upset, but then he's willing to forgive in an instant. And he is so solid. And so he has been just a rock for me in all of my ebbs and flows, which has been wonderful. And one time I was sitting in my small apartment. I had a baby on my hip. I had another one that was like screaming in their bedroom. And we had just moved to Watertown. So all of our friends and family were in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we had moved to Watertown, South Dakota for my husband's job. I looked at him one night, and like, I had somebody crying on me. Somebody was in the bedroom. And I was like, I can't do this. I feel like I've lost myself in motherhood now. Like, I feel like I'm always losing myself somewhere. And he was like, well, then do something about it. And I was like, okay, well, good advice. Thank you very much. Like, but isn't that such a good lesson? Like, just do something about it. Like, you feel like you've lost yourself, so change something. I feel like I heard somewhere that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And that's where I was. Like, I was going to mass, but I wasn't really hearing the words anymore because I had children all around me all the time. I would go to mass, I would come home, and I'd be like, well, that was fun. What's for lunch? Like, I had just lost all of this intimate connection with both God, the church, and it wasn't on purpose. It had just happened very slowly as I lost myself in all of the things that comes with being a mother and being away from community. And so we sat down together, and I talked about the things that I missed. I missed community. I missed our church. I missed the life we were going to build in Minneapolis, and Watertown was going to be something new. But it was like the life, it was different. It was a life we hadn't envisioned. And he's like, okay, well, what's one thing that you can control? And I was like, I'm not sure. But I went to adoration, and I sat in front of the Lord for a while. And I said, I just need something. I need something for me that's going to make me feel like a person again. And there was just this little tweak in the back of my mind that said, remember when you used to paint? And I was like, yes, okay, but back to it. I need something.
I love it.
And so I went back to the house, and I was so frustrated. I was like, all I could think about was painting. I was trying to like have a moment in prayer, and all I could think about was painting. And my poor patient husband, he was like, okay, well, I think that's probably your answer. I was like, what is? He was like, painting. Painting is your answer, woman. Like, he would never say woman, but in my mind, that's how that conversation went. And so I did. One time, like, we put the kids to bed, and I just painted, and it was glorious, and it was wonderful. And I posted it up on Instagram. This is when Instagram was relatively new. And I had all kinds of messages like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Are you going to sell this? Like, are you starting a store? And I was like, no, also no. like, no, of course not. And then I did it because a lot of people asked, and my painting just kind of went like it grew from there. And I think one of the most important parts of my illustration business was when I decided to incorporate my prayer life into my paintings. And that's when I started painting saints, because just like I was missing a community in Watertown, I wanted to start creating my community of saints. I hadn't really, I had a confirmation saint because I had to, and it was Saint Teresa of Avila. So she was like, she's probably
awesome.
like just like knocking her head against the door all the time for me. Like, she's like, come on, girl. But I was like, I'm going to create my community. I'm going to build my community. I'm going to find my people in heaven. And I did. And my saint portraits have been the best thing people just flock to them in ways that they didn't to my other art. And my goal with them was to create more approachable versions of the beautiful icons that you see. Mm-hmm. Like when people think of any of the saints, like who did I paint first? I don't even remember. But when people think of the saints, like you see these beautiful icons, but they feel so impersonal. And I wanted to make them approachable so that when you say, like, Saint Anthony, right now I am struggling. If you can say a prayer for me so I can find my keys, that would be like, you'd be a total boss. Thank you. Like, I wanted him to be approachable in that moment. And I wanted him to feel like when you go to a friend and say, I've had a really hard day, can you pray for me? I wanted it to be the same. And that's really what has just spurred a creative fire for my shop. And sometimes I get the most beautiful messages from people who have seen one of my images and they have taken something so completely different from it than I could have ever painted or tried to paint in my wildest dreams. And it's just beautiful the way God is able to use people, even in ways that they weren't expecting, to speak and help to others. Mm. And that's been just like mind blowing to me and so humbling. And I'm so thankful for every moment that my artwork reaches out to someone and brings them comfort in a moment of sadness.
Do you believe in the power of conversion stories? Has this show moved you in some way? Join the Branches of the Vine community of supporters to help make this show happen right alongside me. At each level of giving, $5 a month, $10 a month, or $20 a month, you will receive different gifts and bonuses in return for your support. Some levels include an embroidered To Grow Good baseball cap or a hand-painted Catholic journaling Bible. At all levels, you will gain access to an underground podcast. That's right. A collection of bonus episodes released monthly on different topics that stir my heart. You'll also join our member-only community where we can connect and chat with one another. Visit togrowgood.com/support or patreon.com/togrowgood to join today. Both links send you to the same place, and both links are live links in today's episode description. So if you just scroll on down, you'll see where and how to join us. Thank you in advance for all of your support in stepping out on the water to wherever he calls us next. Let's see where this goes. Today's episode is brought to you by Catholic Match. Are you feeling called to marriage but struggling to meet others who are striving for sainthood? Well, my friends, there is a solution for you. Welcome to Catholic Match, the largest faith-focused dating app designed for single Catholics. Unlike other dating sites, Catholic Match primarily strives to help singles connect for the purpose of sacramental marriage through direct message, video chat, and more. And not only that, it also provides a place to make new friends in the faith because, let's be honest, these days it's harder than ever to cultivate intimate Catholic community. Create your Catholic love story. Visit catholicmatch.com/togrowgood to create your free Catholic Match account and start meeting fellow-minded Catholics today. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I love what you were explaining, like how you were in adoration. It's so relatable and true. Like a lot of the times it is those kind of passing thoughts almost that we write off, but he's speaking to us through those little nudges or those little ideas that seem to come from nowhere. And then they kind of don't go away and until we want to act on it. It's like an invitation to go deeper or an answer to a question that you have. And I just love how you describe that. And I love how you went to adoration too, because I think a lot of times, it's like we don't really know where to go. And it reminds me of that scripture, like when all his disciples leave him and Peter goes like, Lord, like to whom shall we go? Like you have the words of eternal life. And I just love something about your story when you shared that it's like you like hit this wall and you went to him. And it's just so beautiful because that's what we're meant to do. And he gives us and provides us our next step forward. And it's not the whole story, but it's the next step, like the painting. And I just love that. And then how it just kind of unraveled from there and kept growing and growing. And then how it's evolved and how you started integrating your prayer life into it. It's just so beautiful because not only is it a gift for you, but then, it's gifting so many others. And he's able to work through your yes in ways that you can't even really see on this side of heaven. And just how amazing is that? And mind blowing is that? So that is beautiful. I love that so much. So
I feel like sometimes
go ahead.
I feel like sometimes we wait for like the burning bush, right? Like we're going to come around the corner and like, there's God, like he's just going to be there. And like, sometimes it's just the whispers in the night in your dreams, like just the soft voice. And I feel like so much of my journey has been like the petulant child, like stomping like all the way and then sitting down and like, okay, fine. Like here I am because I've tried everything else and you're probably going to be right.
Yeah, he's like, I know exactly what you need. I'm the one that's created your heart. Like, I know what you desire and what you long for. So let me, provide it for you. And that is so beautiful. And we've touched on this a little bit, but what's one of your biggest challenges and what's one of your greatest joys from or in your relationship with God?
I think that probably one of my biggest challenges is creating a personal prayer life, an intentional personal prayer life with God that is, vulnerable and honest. And it's so easy to say, a Hail Mary or an Our Father, but to get down on your knees and say, wow, like, I can't do this alone right now. Like I am lost and I don't know what to do and I am scared and I'm ready to give up control. That has never been easy for me. I come from a family that always believes that they are right. Like actually my husband and I both come from families where we believe that we are right no matter what. And I feel like part of my personality then is just being right all the time. And like saying like I got this, I can do this all by myself. I'm going to do this. And there are a lot of moments where I can't do this. And to pretend like I can just digs me deeper and deeper into a hole that I can't get out of. So I think that just creating that real prayer life, there are many people out there who have beautiful personal prayer lives with God. And that's just something that doesn't come naturally to me. I can, whip up all the prayers that I've heard before, but to actually say help, like it's the hardest 4-letter word out there in the dictionary for me, And so I think I think it will always be a challenge for me. It was in the beginning, it was in the middle, and it is still now, even in the end. it will just always be something that I struggle with, and it doesn't come naturally to me. And one of my biggest joys, and as a mom, I feel like this is kind of cliche, but one of my biggest joys, being a homeschooler, I've been able to see the places where my education lacked in faith. And one of the things I feel like I would have loved when my dad passed, or in any dark moment, is I would love to have had the word of God already in my head. So I would have loved to have been able to, just rattle off Bible verses in a moment of darkness, because I knew that they were his words and that he was going to be there with me. So, I have the power, I have the strength for everything through him who empowers me. Like even just little words like that. You need them ahead of time so that in the moments when you feel alone, you can just bring them to the forefront of your mind. And so one of the things I've done with my children is we read the Bible every day and we memorize Bible verses. And so the other day, one of my daughters was having a really hard day and she was just stomping all over. We're kind of at this moment, she's 10. So she's like getting into the teen years and we're like starting to see the emotional like breakdowns. And I'm just like, oh man, Lord, please be in this place with me. I just don't know. But she was like sitting there and she was so frustrated and she just like huffed and started like mumbling to herself. And I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm just praying. I just need a moment to pray. And I'm just gonna say some of our Bible verses. If you can just leave me alone for a minute, I'm just gonna say some of our Bible verses. And I'm like, all right, I'll just see myself out, okay?
Oh, that is so sweet. Oh my
like it's just magic. It was just absolute magic.
Wow.
And like, like giving myself like a pat on the back, but really it has nothing to do with me. Like he stirred this in my heart a long time ago because he knew that at some point my children were going to need that,
Wow.
But to actually see it like come out of this little mouth, this little person, like, excuse me, Mom, I need a moment with God by myself and you are in our space, like yeah. It was just, I mean, there are just no words. It was wonderful.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That is so beautiful. And it's like it really is. I feel like the older I get, the more I'm realizing it really is the greatest gift you can pass on, because it can be there when you're not, and it can be there when nothing else is there. Like, because it's God, like he's everywhere and he's our rock. And like, how beautiful is that to be able to pass that on to your child, knowing, right, that we all are going to have a moment when we're not there, and to know that God is always there and he's always consistent and he's always reaching out, and just how beautiful that is, to be able to pass that on. It's just amazing. What have been some of your standout influences on your journey, whether it's like a book or a podcast or a speaker or a specific sacrament even, that have just really helped you in your journey?
There are a couple. I think I have a lot of gratitude for Mama Mary and the example that she sets. I have a ton of portraits of Mary in my shop, and it's because she's just always on my mind. And I want her in my corner. The immensity of her yes is just mind-blowing to me. And so she has been, an inspiration to me since the very beginning. And so I paint her a lot. I contemplate her. I haven't actually done the consecration to Mary, which is silly, but I haven't yet, and I need to, because it's just like, it is time. I know that when I do it, it'll be the perfect time and I'll be like, yes, this made sense right now. But every year I'm like, oh, like I should have done that. And I have the book and everything. I just have to do it.
Yes, do it. It's amazing.
But she is, one of my, she began it, and I've been so grateful for her example. One of my favorite paintings that I've ever done was for a book. And it was her and Joseph and Jesus just like at home. You know, she's kind of looking out the window. She's like facing the window, but kind of looking back at her son who's playing in the sawdust, of Joseph who's like, you know, doing something with the lumber. And that painting was just such a prayer moment for me of like, what was it like to raise God? Like, what was it like to be called to take on that responsibility, you know? And she's been a really big influence. I love C.S. Lewis. I read his Screw Tape Letters when I was in college, after I got back from Rome. And the Screw Tape Letters are dark and scary and hopeful, and they feel so real. And because of that, I've loved C.S. Lewis. I'm currently reading Mere Christianity with a friend. And I've loved that one. I've read his Narnia series. I've read, you know, just so many of his works. And just the way he explains things, the way he lays it out really clearly is so helpful for me. Plus, I'm an English major with a philosophy minor. And so he like checks off all those boxes. I'm like, yes, absolutely. One of my favorite quotes come from him, and it's kind of like the pinnacle. It's like what my whole shop embodies. And he says something like, how monotonous the great tyrants and conquerors of the world are, how gloriously different the saints. And I'm like, yes, like how gloriously different are the saints, and how gloriously different are all of our callings. You know, I love it. With a quote like that, he has to be like up there in my influences. So
yes, that's amazing. I love that quote. I think I actually saw that print on and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. It is so true. Like to see all the different ways that God, when we allow him to, like he just raises up all of our gifts, and they're all so unique and beautiful, and we come alive. It's just awesome to look at the saints. So what, the last question that I hope to ask everyone who comes on at the end is, can you share with us one scripture verse that is either speaking to you recently or that has played a foundational role in your journey, and why?
Yeah, I can. So I love Psalm 139, and I especially love verse 13 through 16. And you actually talked about this a little bit already, and it's, you formed my inmost being. You knit me in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My very self you know. My bones are not hidden from you. When I was being made in secret, fashioned in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw me unformed. In your book, all are written down. My days were shaped before one came to be. And I love that one. It was like the third one my kids memorized, and it's my favorite.
So beautiful. Wow. I just got goosebumps. That's so beautiful. Honestly. Yes. Yes. And how has that played into your journey?
I think it's just a reminder, like he sees me for everything that I am. He sees the stubbornness. He sees the inability to let go. He sees, you know, my empathy and the feelings that I have that are so big. He sees my artistic side, and he sees my, you know, tendency to hold a grudge. And he made me exactly the way I am. And it's not so that I can rest in my faults, because of course he calls us to be saints. He calls us to be better. But there's nothing that I can do that he'll say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like he already knows my weaknesses, my strengths, and how they play together. And he made me exactly the way I was made.
Amazing. Yes. Oh, I love that so much. Wow. This has been such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for saying yes to this and allowing me just to listen to your amazing story and journey. And I feel like in so many ways you are this artist. And I feel like I've just had this image of like the Lord painting, your story and your life and just all the ways that he's used all your talents and gifts to, be able to gift others. So yeah, thank you so much for opening up and just sharing so vulnerably.
Yeah, thank you. This was fun and scary and just really lovely. It was a good conversation.
We laughed, we cried.
We did everything.
Oh, it was beautiful. Thank you so much. And where can someone go if they want to check out your illustrations or your shop? I definitely I know I'm going to be heading over there and probably using some of your illustrations in my own prayer life. But yeah, where could someone go?
So on Instagram at Jen Olson Illustration is probably the best place to go just because the links for everything are there. I'm also on Etsy. So if you type in www.etsy.com/Jen Olson Illustration. And then most of my books are through Catholic Sprouts. So several of them are there. There's a couple more coming out that aren't listed yet. So those would be where you get the books. And they've done a phenomenal job creating children's studies for virtues and things like that incorporate the illustrations that I've made. And they're wonderful. We have them here at the house too, because they're just fantastic.
Wow. That sounds awesome. Thank you. Thank you again. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for growing some good with us today. Visit us at togrowgood.com/podcast to find links to everything we mentioned in today's conversation. If you enjoyed today's conversation, would you please consider leaving us a review on iTunes or on whatever app you're listening from? Reviews help podcasts to show up higher in search results so that more people can find these incredible stories of the Lord at work. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider sharing it with a friend, a family member, or a coworker who might enjoy the conversation as well. Find us on Instagram at @togrowgood. See you next week.